Hey everyone, Gunya on the road. Here we are, Mission Beach with Rosie. And we've just been chatting about what's happening overseas. You know, it's really tricky to know authentically what's happening overseas. So Rosie was telling us a bit about what's happening in Burma. So, yeah, I might send it over to you. And maybe we'll start with what brought your attention to Burma in the first place. How have you got this link with Burma? You know, tell us your story that got you this link to start with.
Sure. Well, that started in 2016. I joined the Circus project, which is an international volunteer humanitarian circus that works directly with the Myanmar or Burmese refugee kids that are displaced on the Thai side of the border. So these kids, don't have paperwork or identification that helps them to gain employment, rent a house, do any of the basic things that you or I can do with those sorts of documents, and also some of them missing parents due to the civil war that's been going on in Burma for about the last 60 or 70 years.
Gee.
Yeah, so I wanted to volunteer and do so in a meaningful way.
Yep.
And Circus came to my attention, and being a circus person myself, I knew I had skills to lend and joy to share with the kids, and so I went for it.
Oh, lovely. And is that still happening right now, the Spark Circus?
They're trying to.
Oh, it's a bit tricky.
COVID's put a bit of a shutdown on things, but they're still raising awareness for the people of the area and also people in Myanmar that are doing it tough at the moment.
Right. So what's happening in Myanmar?
At the beginning of February, the military staged a coup and they took control of the democratically elected government. The Burmese people had their first successful election and were fully involved in the democratic process because they really are over being under military rule and oppression within the country. And so the military did not like that. They have accused the government of rigging the election, even though it was a landslide.
Right.
So yeah, they went in under cover of darkness and they captured the Prime Minister and the cabinet and arrested them.
Gee,
detained them.
And so how did that affect the people actually in the country?
The people in the country were really outraged, and rightfully so, and took to the streets with pots and pans, and demonstrations. They were, being as peaceful as they could. If they were not able to go to a place of protest at 8 p.m., they would come out from the front of their houses with their pots and pans and all just stand together and start banging and making a noise. And, of course, the military has reacted. And that's the stage that the country is currently in.
How are they reacting?
With violence, tear gas, bullets, arresting people that just don't come back to their village or their family. The people they have murdered in the middle of the streets in front of everyone, they're dragging off the streets. So there's no official way to count numbers of the amount of people that they have slaughtered in this process. But yeah, it's become very violent. Businesses aren't open. Banks aren't open. They've seized control of the banks. They've run out of money in the country.
Oh, wow. So what do they do food-wise?
I'm not entirely sure how they're coping in that regard at this moment in time. The Burmese are agricultural people in a lot of senses, but if their land has been seized and what have you, and they don't have access to money or shops, I'm not sure how they are coping.
Isn't it crazy that this isn't the head of the news right now?
Correct.
This isn't number one. Not that we're into the media and that so much because we know it for what it is.
Correct.
But it's interesting that I've been able to just drop in for a cuppa with you and hear this information about somewhere overseas. This is what's happening, unless we know someone from another country, we don't know really what is happening.
Correct.
And so...
Correct. And the media has been shut down inside Burma.
Right.
Internet has been withdrawn. I would imagine if television stations are still operating, that it will be with propaganda. In my travels in Southeast Asia, propaganda is blasted from speakers. It is on television. It is everywhere, but that's both in Thailand and I would imagine in Burma as well. So the only means of information left, I would imagine, would be propaganda related or underground.
Ah,
So in the old Civil War days, in the beginning times, the Burmese people opened tea houses, and that was how they exchanged information. They were still allowed to go and drink tea together. And so very, quietly in the tea houses, that's how they would pass out the information of what was going on.
So give us the history. You were saying like 70 years of civil war has been going on. What was the story before that? Was it a royalty-led country or?
I think it was royalty-led.
Right.
I think it was royalty-led, but certainly in the last 60 to 70 years, it would be military oppression.
Right, with a dictator in charge or a group in charge?
I think it's a head of military.
Right, okay. And they become the dictator of the country.
Effectively. Yeah. Unofficially, but effectively.
Right.
Yes. They have had the Prime Minister, and she's been in and out of house arrest and all sorts of things. And so you get this sense that there is a representative, and she certainly takes the fall for anything that comes up with the country. But in actual fact, she is under military rule herself in a lot of ways, fearing for her family.
Well, there's been talk of this 10 days of darkness, by the Bible, and different researchers, have been talking about it. In a sense, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
In Myanmar, they're in darkness in the sense they've got no contact with the outside world,
Yeah.
And so how can we find out more about this? Like, how to, without giving your sources away, because we don't want to get anyone in danger.
Sure.
How can people find out more about this sort of information?
Well, people that I do know that are inside Burma that have left Thailand to go back to their home country to be part of this revolution, because that's exactly what it is. They have had Al Jazeera, which is a online news source, pick up their photographs and stories.
Right.
And also the boys in Myanmar. They're on Instagram. So yeah, the boys in Myanmar. And they're sharing information. There's also, if you search Myanmar news on Facebook, there's an English Burmese to English translation news source that's providing accounts of what's going on as well.
Great.
Yeah, so there's definitely ways of searching that through mainstream media and alternative media sources.
Yep.
And as for the boys in Myanmar, they are Burmese that previously living in Thailand returned to Burma on the ground reporting.
And what was happening with them? What are they telling you?
Well, they can't tell how many people have been killed or arrested. They've been shot at with tear gas and all sorts of things. There was one point in time they were stuck inside a building. There was military firing all around, and they were, military desperately trying to shut down a protest that was happening. And so they were a bit frightened at that point in time that they might not make it out of that particular village. But they have. So they're still all okay. There's 4 of them on the ground there, but they can't withdraw money, not even from, shops that have sort of FPOS facilities. So, and that was, that was more than 3 weeks ago that was happening.
Wow.
Maybe a month ago now, actually. So, this started in February. It didn't really get violent until sort of later February towards March, but now we're in June, nearly July.
Wow.
So it's not getting any better.
No. So I imagine with the Circus, you wouldn't have those people coming over from Burma or into Thailand. I know in Thailand when I was there's a lot of people from Burma that worked there.
Correct.
Particularly in tourist areas.
Correct.
And so they're not able to leave Burma now and come and, I suppose there's no tourism.
Well, there's probably no tourism either. So there's there'll be a massive shift in that area, and an unsettling, because the Thais look down on the Burmese presence in Thailand really harshly. They're very racist towards the Burmese neighbours, and they'll let them work in agriculture and tourism, in service industries basically, where the Thais don't want to work. And yeah, so if that's all starting to dry up,
Mm.
they might not be able to stay, but they
Yeah.
might not also have a home to return to. So I'm not sure on the situation of the refugee camps
Oh,
on
okay.
either side of the border, because there are refugee camps still.
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting point.
Yeah.
So I know a bit. I know some stuff.
You
but
do.
There are
Yeah.
still some gaps in this information
Yeah.
that
Well, I mean,
now that we talk about it are
yeah.
quite alarming to consider.
Well, if they've shut all the information down,
Yeah.
you know, like at this moment in time, you've still got access to people on the ground there,
Yeah.
you know. But I mean, how long's that going to last for? You know, like.
Well, for as long as the safety of those people or their capacity to get to a point where they can get that information back out of Burma.
Yeah. It's like, you know, what we've only heard of as kids as World War stories, you know.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? You know, we heard of all these stories which we question their authenticity,
Yeah.
but it's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, not to disrespect Myanmar, sorry, I'm not good with the pronunciation. I always think of it as Burma.
Yeah,
but,
same.
you know, not to disrespect what they're going through, but also just to mention that, you know, in the Western world it's going on as well, but in a very subtle way.
Yeah.
You know, a way like we've got the media fully controlled. You know, underground network's great, though. You know, we've got that on our side, that the underground internet network in the Western world is so fluid, and, you know, it has top people working on it, which opens up a massive network for us.
Yeah.
You know, but the military rule, one of the agendas.
Yeah.
You know, for the whole world, that it comes under military rule. So it begs to ask why the military? Why is it that they take control?
I have no idea. It's this age-old story of power battle, or.
But once they kill everyone, there's no one left to rule. So I don't get the point of it all.
No.
You know, there's so many questions that are unanswered. And, you know, like, I know it's so boring hearing this word that starts with C, but I was listening to the radio as I left wherever I was last coming here, and there was all this C word, you know, and it was so boring. It was the same story over and over, as if I'm stupid and didn't hear it the first time. And so it got me thinking. I thought, all right, so here I am observing this situation, and I thought, why aren't they asking other questions? Like, why aren't we talking about the fact that viruses, what I learned in herbal medicine years ago, was that viruses can only be stamped out with interferon. Interferon's made in the blood. There is no antiviral. There's herbs, sure, that help support you to be stronger against a virus, without a doubt. You know, if you can keep your lungs open and your blood clean, of course, they're going to support you. But the only thing that kills a virus is interferon. Interferon is made in the blood. There is no vaccine that is going to kill this, you know, blah, blah, C thing, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's the questions we're not asking that we need to ask, not the questions that are being asked, because we're not stupid.
Yeah. It's not just about your own individual mortality anymore, because that's all well and good to ensure a long and prosperous life. But if you do that completely alone and disconnected and isolated from other humans, it's crap.
That's it. And that's military law.
Yeah.
And so to leave something practical, you know, for people listening to this, you know, we always have this need as humans to do something about when things like this, what's happening in Burma, is happening. And we're not always able to do something. So I wonder what it is that we can come up with that we actually practically can do to support these people.
One of the things that I have seen being adopted is the three-finger salute from Hunger Games. I think it's from Hunger Games.
Yeah, Hunger Games, yeah,
but
Mockingbird.
Definitely that's been getting passed around social media channels. So if you upload a photo of yourself doing your salute, and I can't remember the hashtag though, I feel really bad. Maybe it's Save Burma or Save
They can
Myanmar.
research.
Yeah, please look it up. But that's definitely one way that people are sharing the story that this is even happening, because most people aren't aware. So yeah, you three-finger salute, look up your hashtag. You can share that through your social media channels. If you are interested in trying to financially assist people, I don't know how how well this works. I will be 100% authentic in myself and honest about that if people can't access money. But I know that Spark Circus were definitely trying to organise a fundraiser.
Yep.
So you can check out sparkcircus.org. The boys in Myanmar, you could probably contact them through Instagram and see if they need anything or what their people on the ground, what potentially we could do to assist. But back to the Spark Circus thing, they do have excellent connectivity in Thailand. So if it was a matter of, purchasing food in Thailand and getting it to the river to transport it across, I'm sure that there are lots of things that funds being donated to that fundraiser would still be going towards that wouldn't be physically getting cash to people inside Burma, because really
it's no good.
Cash with no food to buy or no water to buy is kind of pointless. You can't eat the money.
That's it.
There is connection on the Thai side of the border with people that are Burmese that, I'm sure will be assisting Spark Circus in their fundraising efforts.
Yeah, and share this info. Let other people know. This is the sort of news that we can talk about. In astrology right now, the next 2 months is going to be intense, as if the last 2 months wasn't. We've got another 2 months of what they call intense. So, as we go through this intense transition, consecrate the difficulties you're going through, consecrate that pain and that anguish for those people in Burma, because when you are going through a painful experience yourself and you consecrate that, it's like giving a dedication to others that are feeling it, and in consecrating it, you're feeling it for them, so that it takes a bit of the intensity away from them. You actually carry it for them for that moment in time. And so consecration in yogic practices are really powerful ways to support people through difficult times. And so, send them love, send, all good energy, project what you'd like to see for those people in that country.
Put pressure on the Australian government, write letters, make phone calls.
Foreign minister. When you write a letter to a minister, it becomes a ministerial, and by law they have to address it and write back. So if you write to the foreign minister and say that you'd like to know Australia's position in what's going on in Burma and what they're doing about it, and as your representative you would like to see action, they will have to address that. And if they don't, then you can go to a lawyer and straight away they'll be in trouble for it. It's that simple. Okay, all right, we might leave it there. Okay, love yous. See you later. Hey.